ordinance 7109 by title only, please.
09, an ordinance authorizing the issuance of the City of Kokomo, Indiana taxable economic development revenue bonds.
The Redevelopment Commission adopted a resolution pledging a portion of the property tax collected in the TIF district to pay off the bonds. The Kokomo Economic Development Commission, at a hearing, proposed issuance of the bonds. On October 12, 2023, the commission held a public hearing on the project. The commission has performed all actions necessary to come up with the agreement, the taxpayer agreement, and the grant of real property to purchase the bonds and to pay off the bonds. So now therefore, the common council hereby finds and determines that the project involves planning, designing, executing, and that the project will increase employment opportunities and promote the economic stability and the welfare of the city. Approval of the financing is hereby approved with the authorization of the 2023 bonds, and it's hereby authorized to be paid with TIF revenues. The bonds will be in the amount of $100 million, and will be executed and have a maturity date not less than 25 years, but not more than 35 years, and bear an interest not to exceed 5%. The bonds do not and shall never have caused any indebtedness or charge against the general credit or taxing power of the city. That's very important. But be of special and limited obligations of the city, solely revenues and amounts derived from financing agreements, including TIF revenues, with respect to the Series 2023 bonds. The provisions of this bond ordinance and financing agreement shall constitute a binding contract. Therefore, Mr. President, I move we adopt ordinance 7109.
Second.
Do we have any comments or communications from the audience? Any from the council? We have a motion and a second to adopt ordinance 7109 on second reading. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We'll ask the clerk to read ordinance 7110 by title only, please.
Ordinance 7110 is an ordinance authorizing the issuance of the City of Kokomo, Indiana taxable economic development tax increment revenue bond series 2023 Tribune apartment project and lending of the proceeds thereof to borrower and authorizing and approving other actions in respect thereto.
Councilman Miklick.
Mr. President, I move we present ordinance 7110.
Second.
The City of Kokomo adopts this ordinance, and whereas the Tribune Apartments LLC desires to finance construction of a mixed-unit retail and family apartment project, and whereas the borrowers advise the City Economic Development Commission that it proposes the city issue taxable income or economic development increment revenue bonds in the amount of $2,500,000, the loan of which will be paid for from the TIF district. Whereas October 12th, the commission held a public hearing on the project, and the commission has performed all actions required to adopt this bond ordinance. The Common Council finds and determines that the project involves planning, design, and equipping of the project facility, and approval of the financing by the city's Economic Development Commission is hereby approved. Authorization of the bonds is derived from financing is hereby authorized. The bonds in the aggregate amount of $2,500,000 shall be executed at the closing date of this manual or the signature of the mayor, and shall be no less than 25 years and no less than 25 years, and bear an interest rate not to exceed 7%. The bonds and interest do not and shall never constitute an indebtedness against the general credit or taxing power of the city. Mr. President, I move we adopt ordinance 7110 as presented. Second.
Any comments, communications from the audience? Any from council? We have a motion and a second to adopt ordinance 7110 on second reading. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Would ask the clerk to read ordinance 7103 by title only, please.
Ordinance 7103 is case P25Z23, amendment to zoning ordinance, small box discount stores development standards.
Councilman Grieco.
Mr. President, I would move for passage of ordinance 7103 on second reading.
Second.
Ordinance 7103 is an amendment to the zoning ordinance, creating small box discount store development standards. This is the city's response to the moratorium that was put in place and just outlines the standards that are going to be required going forth, both in terms of architectural design, some basic standards of what's to be provided in these stores, and basic requirement for some storage space off of the sales floor. So, would this be passed on second reading?
Do we have-
Giving him a bad look, you didn't have to duck, Diane.
Do we have any comments? Communication from the audience? Any from council? I think Mr. Miklick seconded that.
Yes.
Yes. We have a motion and a second to pass ordinance 7103 on second reading. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. That concludes our business for this evening. Our next council meeting will be held November the 13th with the informational meeting at 5:30, followed by our meeting at 6 o'clock. Everybody have a good evening.